All right. Welcome to episode 4 of the Trench Talk Show podcast. If you guys have listened to previous episodes, you'll know that our podcast is basically around us talking amongst ourselves as well as hosting some guests, mostly around people who grind deep in the trenches, on chain, hunting for alpha, covering hot topics, sharing alpha. We're excited this week to have our second guest. Last week we had Pwn Lord 69. And this week we have a pretty big guest that I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with, EasyEatsBodega. Easy, welcome to the pod.
What is good, man? Thanks for having me. Excited, big fan of you guys. Absolutely crushing it in the trenches day in and day out. So eager to be here, excited to chop it up.
Love it, man. Yeah, I've actually been listening to your content for quite a long time. I remember back in 2021. I don't know if you've listened to any of our pods, but I think our second one we went through each of our own individual origin stories. I personally started in NFTs back in 2021. I mean, I got into crypto back in 16, 17 and then took a break from it. But back in 2021, I remember when Nick and Pio had started the pod and then eventually you came on. I was listening to a lot of your content. And even back then, I was still very much omni-chain with my trading, I guess I would say. I was buying ETH NFTs, but I heard of Solana. I was trading Solana NFTs. I was doing stuff on Algorand as well.
Yep.
And you were back then, you were just trading on a whole nother level than a lot of people that I was hearing from in the space that were creating content and talking about it. You were doing a lot of high frequency stuff. I remember there were different keys for stuff. I was looking through my wallet in preparation for this. I still have keys for some bots that you had bought. I have a chamber key and a Mr. Bot
Yep.
key. I don't even know if I ever used them, but yeah, I've been familiar with your trading for a long time. And I think what we'd love to start with you is get people familiar with you, although they probably already are. But I think it'd be interesting to hear about your origin story, how you got into the space, and what your journey's been like.
Absolutely, man. I started 16 to 18 with ICOs, Pancake Swap, BNB, Smart Chain, all that other stuff. It was chaos back then during the ICO craze where you could basically just leverage trade pink slips, which were early token allocations, and buying into them on pre-sales. Much like we saw send money to a wallet, there was smart contracts that you could send it to. And I was just aggressively leveraged trading a lot of it. I ran 15K up to about 600K. You had Black Christmas, which was a sell-off in 2017, 2018, where basically the whole market tanked, massive sell-offs shortly after Christmas, and I lost all of it. Literally, I think I had $20, $30 to my name at that point. It was brutal. And yeah, dude, it was crazy. I still have the liquidation email from that.
What was that? What was it held in when you lost it?
It was some in ETH and some in, mostly in random shitcoins. At that point, it was just a terrible thing because I was just constantly compounding. The goal was to try to get to 1 million and then take it out, and I didn't get as close as I wanted to. But that was a huge wake up call for me to just realize you need to constantly take profit. None of it's realized till you can actually spend it, which was kind of that wake up call. And then obviously not having any money, worked a sales job, went back to school for software development from 18 to 20. Was still kind of keeping some low tabs on it, and then I had a friend who was doing PR for NBA Top Shot, and he hit me up. It was hey, dude, I know you're into cards, sneakers, collectibles. Check this out. I had never heard of NFTs, didn't really know what they were. Thought Top Shot was kind of cool. They had been teasing fantasy tournaments with the cards you hold, and I was really early on Top Shot. I got in December 2021, back when there wasn't queues for pack releases. You could actually just buy them. So we'd buy a pack, leave for a couple hours, come back, buy another pack. Pulled a bunch of player debut moments before they even got that badge. I think I still have a LeBron and a Steph player debut moment, which is crazy. And had ended up running that port up from 1,500 to about 30 grand, round tripped it, because all that sold off in February, just because they heavily diluted cards, which at the time, I actually wrote off NFTs entirely. I was this is dumb. This whole thesis is dumb, which, hey, it's crazy how times kind of shift and turn. Then ended up stepping away from NFTs for a month and a half until I had a buddy hit me up because we still had some liquid ETH at the time. And he was hey, do we buy a Bored Ape with this ETH we have? We still have 0.2, they're 0.08. I was no, let's buy a hash mask. So another terrible decision. Spent the 0.2 on a hash mask on the bonding curve. Hash masks inevitably just tanked. Apes ran and did what they did. And at that point I was okay, there may actually be something here. So loaded up another ETH into the wallet, probably a little more, and me and my buddy in August of 21 bought a ton of Lazy Lions, an absolute ton of Lazy Lions, because we liked the website. We were oh, these are kind of close to Bored Apes. I think this will have a FOMO narrative, and we ended up selling a ton of those shortly after. between like 0.5 to 1.5 ETH. And that was really how like the trading focus shifted. And I was like, okay, dope. Like this is good. And then because I saw how much I paid in gas, I think at the time I ended up paying like $1,500 in gas fees. I was like, oh, God damn it. This is awful. Like, this is awful. This is not sustainable. Retail will never enter. I was in NFT Llama's Discord at the time, which for those familiar, at the time he was giga cooking in late 21. Like, you had Holy Primes, which he ran from like 0.1 to like 3 ETH per Holy Prime. There was a whole bunch of other stuff that was like gig ascending. And he started a small...
Was this like before Llamaverse stuff?
Pre-Llamaverse.
Yeah,
Wow.
if I'm pretty sure Llamaverse came about because it was like his alpha
Yes.
Discord, and then he made the NFT boosters. It was like the Llama Boost or something. And they came, and he gave them to like all the good members in his Discord.
So
and
I
that's
got a
how
gold
Llamaverse
Llama
went.
pass, which I sold same day for like 2.5 ETH. If I kept it, that you would have got an animated llama, which I think hit like a 10 ETH floor with ETH at 3,600 4K or something like that.
That's
Just
so
because
wild.
I was early
Times
in
are
it,
so
which
different.
was crazy, dude. But he opened up a sub channel called Soul Trades right after SMBs minted, and I was in there, and some guy cold DM me and was like, "Hey man, I see you hyper trading ETH. Have you looked at Solana?" And I was like, "No." This guy, shout out XOXOXO, NFT Paladin on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, awesome! Like this is dope." He ended up walking me through how to get a Phantom wallet, all this other stuff, and I minted 2 Meerkat Millionaire Country Clubs, which was this OG collection on Sol that was supposed to give royalties back to holders for life. And they went from 1 Sol to 45, and then as high as like 100, I want to say, with Sol at like $160. So I was like, I was sold at that point. And then I never left Solana after. I was like, this is way faster. There's less people on it, so it's less competitive. I think this is going to be where retail ends up going. So it was late 21, right around September, October, when I minted my first few. We ended up joining like another smaller Discord of like 15 of us that's still active today. That's just like this small cohort of like Solana-focused traders. And we ended up finding Boryoku Dragon's Twitter with like sub 100 followers. Collectively, I think we minted like 60 or 70 of the 2,000 because we managed to find the link in the website early. And that was another crazy cook. I sold one to Fuck Render, I think, for like $54,000, which was crazy. Like that was probably like my biggest single NFT sale.
That's sick. I remember, dude, those Boryoku Dragons were so fire. I remember
It was crazy,
those.
dude. They ended up, that was the one I Pico Top sold, which was great. It was like Farouk bought in, Gary V, Cosmo, and some others. And I was like, this is dope. This is dope.
Yeah, that's
Were you
gotta be the
still
best feeling.
were you still sticking to like ETH trading
Not
at
at
the
all.
time? Like ETH NFTs? You just basically moved
Yeah, 'cause I was
completely
like-
to Sol. You're like, this is
I
it.
was like,
This is the
ETH heavy
future.
diluted,
Low
man.
gas.
There's so many traders, and like
Yeah.
gas wars are crazy. You need a huge bankroll. Let's just see what we can do with 5 or 10 Sol at the time, like $1,000, $500, and every time you run it up at the end of the month, take it out. And that's what I was doing for basically the whole cycle. Was I would start a wallet with 5 Sol, and January and February I was publicly posting the trades, everything from buys, sells, theses, take profit target, stop loss target, and I ran 5 to 80 in January and then 5 to 70 in February before I had to stop doing that basically. Because so many people were copy trading it at the point they found the wallets. And when I would post a trade, it would hit my take profit target. And I'd be like, okay, this has to stop. So it was like...
back
dude.
back then, it was like really different back then too, from like a platform standpoint. Like I don't even think like Magic Eden was like really even the main
wasn't.
one people were trading on. Like at the end of that summer and like into that fall, like there was like Solana.
Solinar was the main one.
I
It
don't know,
was
there's
like
a few
if your
others.
collection gets listed on
Yeah.
Solinar, it's a guaranteed 3 to 4x. If it gets listed on Digitalize,
Yeah.
you can probably get 50, 60%. And Magic Eden was trending up on that. There was no Tensor. And then there was SolC, which a lot of people forget about. SolC was this marketplace where contracts did not have to be verified. So you'd end up having to like find the creator ID and matching it with the actual one to make sure it was legit. But you could find like crazy arbitrage.
Yeah, people would like screenshot the NFTs and then list fake listings and just scam
Yep.
you
And
like
then there was
that. I remember
also
that.
another one called Alpha. It wasn't Alpha Art. It was oh man, it was made by Piggy's Soul Gang. It was the first one that D-Gods were listed on. Oh my god, it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't remember what this marketplace was called. But it was another one too that was there. And D-Gods had this paper hand bitch tax, which was like a 33.3% tax if you sold under what you bought for. And only this marketplace could support it. And that marketplace ended up going under. But I remember that because I had a video in December of 21 where I talked about D-Gods leaving that marketplace. And I was like crazy bullish on them at 8 Sol before they did Dead Gods, and they ran to 100 the following January. So there was like a whole bunch of stuff. I was just in the trenches every day going crazy. And I was still working a full-time job, which is even nuts.
That's actually nuts. To go into that though, you said you were making videos. How did you get into content, and how did like you come about with the Nifty crew? Because I remember listening to that Twitter space back when I first started. You know, on my way to school every morning, I'd tune into the Twitter space, and I remember there would always be a segment with you specifically on Solana, and I was always like, dude, this guy's, you know, because you were one of the first people I think I ever saw do challenge wallets. That's all over Twitter now, you know. I'm doing this one soul challenge, or I'm doing this 1 ETH challenge. And I found it really interesting at the time because I was just starting out with like only like $1,500. So it kind of, you know, it was kind of like, oh, I could do this. But yeah, how did you start with content?
So dude, I never thought I'd do content, to be honest. Like at all. Pio hit me up after, because I joined the show in September, like probably their third or fourth episode. I saw them doing it, and the company I was working for at the time was based out of Utah, and I was living in Boston. So my day would start about 2 hours later than like 9 a.m., and they did 9 a.m. Eastern time. So I figured I could join the show. They used to run it from 9 to 10:30, and I would join and just talk trades, and then my actual workday would start around 11. And it was perfect timing because like I'd wake up in the morning, 7, 8 a.m., go through the market, look at what I was buying, look at where volume was moving, look at what collections were upcoming mints, do some research before the show, join. And after the first couple trades I was sharing, they were like, oh, you're actually like watching the market like a hawk. Like, do you want to just keep coming back? And then what I did was I would just keep joining and requesting to speak, and they would just let me on. I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah, it was really interesting to see. And then as I would keep talking with them, I'd be like, okay, let's keep doing this. And then November rolled around, and they were doing YouTube as well as the show. So the show would be in the morning, YouTube would be at night, and that like November hit, and they were like, do you want to do a Solana segment? Are you interested in doing the Solana segment on Wednesdays and Saturdays? Like, we want to start giving a break to Captain Kicks and Nick, who are also on the show. And it was me and Pio, where I would just break down the Solana market twice a week. And I was doing it just totally for free. Then February hit, and they were like, do you want to come on as a contractor? And I had never done YouTube before. Twitter was just kind of like this random thing to me, you know? Where I was like, yeah, cool. This is nice. Whatever. And then they were paying me to do content. And then eventually July, basically the prime start of the bear market, they hit me. And were like, hey, do you want to just come work with us? You'd be our first employee. And I was like, I took this huge risk, took a pretty big pay cut from a stable like consulting job in software, and was like, yeah, fuck it, this is way more fun. This is where I'm spending the majority of my time. And they're like, awesome, we need you on the show every day. We need you on video content, da-da-da. So it ended up just snowballing into like doing more content, and now it's like full-time content.
That's amazing. I always feel like the best things like that come naturally like that, though. You know, you're just like tuning in, you're being part of the community, or you're providing your tips, and then eventually it just kind of barrel rolls into more and more, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think any of us in here expected that we would start doing content at any point, but
I don't know.
We started this as an idea, and I think we're all enjoying it so far. And yeah, I mean, I think it's probably going to take us some interesting places. At the very least, a great conversation with you.
Dude, content's one of the best things, and it just opens up a ton of doors and opportunities, especially like when you can put a face to a name. Like, I've realized like video content in a space where people are heavily undoxed gives you this like level of trust, where it also kind of puts a target on your back, though. Like, even today, people were just bitching about me posting about a Solana trade I was making yesterday, and I was like, what are you upset about? Like, why do you care? Like, I'm posting my exits, posting my stop loss, and yet you're still complaining. Like,
yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to them
Exactly.
whether or not they enter the trade. You're not telling them what to do, you know? I think a lot of people that even don't create content but just post on Twitter, whether, you know, some people do it maliciously looking for exit liquidity, but regardless, if they're upset about it, it's ultimately their choice to make the trade or not.
I think that is a vast problem in this space, though. I mean, even just yesterday with the whole GCR thing or Don Alt thing, it's like people just don't want to make their own trades or have their own ideas or have their own conviction. It's just they just want to be handheld. And, you know, when that handholding goes wrong, like it's bound to, because, you know, we all are wrong, they get so mad. It's like, well, I don't know, make your own trades, you know, have your own ideas, stop relying on others.
that's a wild part. It's
They need the Forex
Literally.
crypto groups. That's what they need. They need to be handled their trades. Also, I'm back for my wage cage interview.
Welcome back.
It was fun.
Was it fun?
But dude, it was fun. Easy. I just wanted to say you were probably the first Solana person I found on Twitter back in, it was like mid-summer 21. And I always just remember you saying you're like Solana's gonna be big, Solana's gonna be big, and I always like had that thesis because it was like I don't know, it's become more relevant, especially over the past couple months for sure with like the ETH versus Solana debate. It's like I'm just going to compare this just to the meme coins, right? The ETH meme coins, you have to deal with so much BS, taxes, dev pooling, liquidity, yada yada yada. And it's just, and there's so much more capital you got to put up front. And then in Solana, it's just so much easier for people to enter. I just feel like it's just so much more warming for like someone new to enter in. And that was always like my biggest bull thesis on it. And then over like the past couple months, it's like shown its hand that that really is true.
Like I look on chain for like a lot of activity for volume and everything else. And like you can clearly see people are looking right now at where volume's surging, and it's like all pump fun. Like people enjoy pump fun because Solana's gasless. It makes it way easier. People can take profits more aggressively and cut stop losses more aggressively. There's no gas, and like that's where people say like gas is a feature, not a bug. But it was like my exact thesis was like this is way more retail friendly. You know what I mean? Where it's like a user can get on, pay 1/100th of a penny for a transaction, get in and out of something, and it's just way better. Like I don't have to worry about a ton of money in fees, taxes on buys and sells, and like there's super tokens, which there are taxes on buys and sells on Sol, but still it's like this thing pumps 40%, 50%. You can recognize a profit and get in and out almost instantly. It's just a smoother experience. And then you're also seeing like Solana Mobile, which is a huge win for like globally. People who don't have access to PCs and computers can literally trade from an Android, you know, and like that's a way more seamless experience that can onboard net new participants who have $20, $30, $40, $50. That's a ton of money to them. And that's where I'm like, this is how you actually get people interested and excited versus needing $5,000 and 60% of that's going to go to fees.
I also think a big problem is that people don't realize they can trade on both, though. Only. Like, I mean, obviously, like, if you are starting out and you do have, like, a very low amount of starting capital, yeah, Solana is the best. But I think people are way too one or the other. And it's like, just enjoy the best of both worlds. I mean, you can be on Base, you can be on Blast, you can be on Mainnet, you can be on Solana, you can be on FTM, and now, like, Ton is coming up, Telegram chain. Yeah. So it's like, if you have the capital to be able to be spread out, like, your opportunity cost of just having money on each chain is so large compared to, you know, having all your chips in one corner.
I do think there's something to be said, though, about, like, honing in on one area, because you're going to have different, quote-unquote, influencers or streams of information for each chain, and studying and, like, honing in deeply on one and trying to become an expert on that, or at least do well on that, is probably optimal, because, like, there's a lot of noise and it can become really difficult to keep track of everything on all chains. I trade wherever I possibly can. I think it's good to educate yourself on how each chain functions, what wallets you need to have, what gas looks like, how to bridge to them, and what's the most optimal way to operate in each and how to do the bridging. But I think for somebody who's starting out, like, yeah, go for lower gas fees, lower cost of entry, and maybe focus in on that more than spreading yourself thin and not being an expert of anything. I think it's more interesting to
hit the market from like a wider lens, in my opinion, where it's like, this can also, like, finding opportunities is probably the biggest thing. And, like, in my opinion, it's better to be familiar with something that's new than being late to the game, even if that something new doesn't take off. That's where I'm like, this makes more sense for me to at least try and get familiar so that if this does gain traction, I can dive in head first. Like we just saw with World PvP, which is like the SocialFi meme token world war. And I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. This makes a lot of sense. And I was able to get onto Blast extremely quickly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in this space don't have what I would describe as like a growth mindset where they're looking to educate themselves and put in the work to learn. The people that have a higher work ethic and are willing to grasp new ideas and new projects quickly, those are the people that are going to make money. I mean, we're all fighting to be early on stuff. So when you do see something that's new and interesting or new technology, like, don't be like, oh, that's too confusing, I'm not going to dig in. When you see something like that, just look into it. Doesn't mean you're going to buy it, but if it's interesting, if it's fresh,
that's it.
You should probably read about it,
study
like,
it. When I saw Base first take off, I was trading bald like immediately because I was like, my thesis was wicked simple. It was like Coinbase blockchain, done. who's going to be able to onboard people easily? It'll be Coinbase. Like, they're going to obviously incentivize this and try to gain traction. Same thing with Blast. Like, I knew at the start people would be like extremely bullish because it's Pac-Man, but I figured it would do the same type of move that Blur did, where season 1 a lot of people would fade it and be like, I don't want to spend time on this. And I always try to find like something that's undercrowded before it gets too busy. Like, the one thing I did fumble on was Fantasy Top. I didn't play on the testnet, which like I left a ton of money on the table. But then the first few days, I just got in the trenches immediately and was like, okay, let's start to look at this and see how people are trading these cards. Let's see how people are navigating this ecosystem. And made like 1 ETH into like 5 or 6 pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good segue into this. I know we wanted to talk a bit about that. I'd love to hear around like how you're currently trading. I listen to your podcast.
Cut out.
Maybe not live every morning, but if it's like something topical, I'll jump in. I'll listen to the podcast. But I've heard you talk a lot about your Blast trading, Pac Moon, different things of that nature. I'm curious,
right
like
now
exactly where you're spending most of your time right now.
What people care about. It's where I think the most potential upside is going to be, especially because like with them extending the season, now I'm like I want to double down even harder on it and like go add more funds and take more of a swing. Especially now that we have concrete information on how much Blast Gold there will be. We know there's 2 more dilutive events to it. We know DApps are going to continue to take off here. So when a new DApp launches, I'm like, okay, how can I get in quickly, and how can I start to figure out like what's really happening with this so that I can try to capitalize before the army of people get in and start doing the same thing. Same idea goes for like Pump Fun, obviously. Like I was pretty early on Pump Fun when I was like, oh, this is like a 2-click meme coin launcher. This will start gaining traction. And it has, obviously. Same kind of thing when I looked at like Photon and like tools and bots and everything else. You had even mentioned like Mr. Bot, which was like the OG NFT charting tool before Soul Sniper ended up launching something very similar, totally for free. And now obviously there's charts on every marketplace for Solana NFTs, whether you use Tensor, who we work with, or Magic Eden or another competitor. And that's why I'm like, dude, this is the most logical thing, because now I can in real time see trends, see what people are actually doing, and take action on it. So I'm like, if I can be early to something, I would prefer to be early to it and make sure I'm at least getting some level of action. And starting to know where the market could move on this. And if it doesn't gain traction, the only thing I lost was the time for it. Like monetarily, the risk is much lower when not a lot of people are on it because you can basically get in and out for cost. But at least I'm familiar. So if it does come back in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, I'm there. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're basically trading wherever,
like, Ton is a great
really
call.
wherever the alpha is right now. Like you're paying attention to Blast, you're trading coins on Sol, you're on Pump.Fun, if you're on the World War thing, the World PvP, you're on.
Yeah, I'm not chain agnostic.
So
I'm a Solana maxi through and through.
If you
like,
want
I
to
think
talk,
Sol's
like,
going to go much higher. I still think that makes the most sense, especially with like the Stripe partnership that they just announced, as well as like with AVAX for subnets for gaming. There's different use cases for different chains, and I think you can really silo yourself and pigeonhole yourself if you just go all in. Like, dude, ETH has been chopping in this 26 to 3K range, while Sol has gone from what $40 to 206, now back to 170. Like, that's why I'm like, I prefer to spread myself out and find new opportunities. But like, at the end of the day, my thesis has still been like, I think Solana outperforms, so I like to still bring funds back there. But if I can leverage capital and grow that capital, why would I shy away from it?
Yeah, no, that's completely agreeable. What products or like what things have you been looking on Blast? Because that's something for me that I've been struggling with personally. I'm so locked into meme coin trading that I kind of miss a lot of the Blast stuff, and a lot of it I kind of saw like the ends of it. Like the only things I really saw were I saw a Fantasy Top being really early. I faded that. That was a mistake. And then I saw the whole yield thing play out, which that was horrific to watch. But kind of just what are you into on Blast?
The easiest path for me, just to like for time management wise, is more of the DeFi stuff. So like Thruster creating LPs and then depositing it into Hyperlock, which is like a staking platform for LPs. And for me, it's like the lowest effort I need to do. I create an LP. They have what's called a gold rush right now where certain tokens get massive gold distributions. And I'm like, yeah, why would I not be trying to capitalize on those, especially on tokens I'm already bullish on? So I have pools open right now for like PAC, which is great because that someone literally just sent it to a new all-time high at 26 cents with a 350K buy of it. And then Cap, which is Captain Co., their token for Cap Games.
Jesus.
Which right now, for every 1K you have in Cap, you get 30 gold. So, like, at $6, you're looking at, like, 180, right? About that in gold for just depositing it into an LP while still earning fees, and I'm bullish on the token. So, like, I think there's potential upside.
Weren't you guys talking about a similar
Wasabi's
staking thing like that called like Wasabi or something?
They're a
What is
leverage
that?
platform, which gives you the opportunity to do long and short stuff. And that one's like very easy to do. There's just different options on ways to do it. And Hyperlock doesn't let you put it into like a deck yet, so you can't hit the jackpot. But my thesis was also like, I'll make more on fees, potential upside, and the gold that they're distributing consistently versus hitting a jackpot. And I did some math. I think I lost out on about 400 gold, but I still made 1,000 gold on Hyperlock by just having money staked in there, and Pac Moon's gone up. So, like, there's different angles to take. Like, if you just want exposure to Blast, it's like just buy some of these cheaper NFTs, in my opinion. New Blast City. Blastopians is a little more expensive. I still think they win the jackpot at some point. Blast Snipers. New Blast City and Blast Snipers are both teams who have worked on Blur products before. So I'm like, that's interesting. Known devs, quality projects. But if you want to just take the easiest route, that's literally, in my opinion, move ETH and USD to Blast, get the multiplier by using dApps, and then you can just stake it on Wasabi or Hyperlock and create an LP for ETH and USD. And you're just going to earn 3.5% interest on ETH, 10% on the USD. You get the 12% multiplier for points and Blast Gold from these LPs. It's like wicked easy.
I think that's an important point, though, just in general, that, like, if you have spare capital, if you have extra capital, you know, let it work for you, you know, put it in some yield farms or put it in new protocols that are safe, like Juice or any of those that eventually had a token. I mean, the upside is so infinite. Obviously, like, you have to be careful of exploits and whatnot, but I think if you have a lot of extra spot crypto, I think you should be letting it work for you in new farms and stuff that eventually have tokens. Because, I mean, look how much of a cook like Jupiter was. If you were just, I don't know, LPing there, man. I mean, Jupe airdrop was huge. So, and I think, I think a lot of people just miss out on stuff just because they don't let their extra money just work for them passively. And I think that's a huge thing.
I do think it's important to note, just on the topic of Blast, like if you are going to move funds over and look to farm gold and points, you definitely want to make sure that you link your wallets if you're doing multiple wallets on Blast.io. But also, if you do bring funds over, I believe if you move them off,
keep the gold,
like
you
bridge
lose
them out, you lose all your gold, right?
So the points multiplier is what you lose. So not that bad, to be honest.
Multiplier.
Like,
got it.
The other thing, too, is like they have native yield on chain, which like people are like, what does that even mean? Well, it just means that you're earning an interest rate by having the money there. So if you have a ton of liquid ETH that's just sitting, or you're trying to LP it on another L1 or like a different L2, doing it on Blast is way more lucrative to put your ETH to work. And I think a lot of people are overthinking that, where it's like, if you don't have time, just move the funds and let them sit. And like, if you want, LP it with a USD ETH pool, and now you're going to earn 0.3% on every transaction. And to me, I'm like, that's a no-brainer. Like, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. That's why I think a lot of people are like, there's too many buttons, there's too much admin work, there's too much to do. And I'm like, not really. Like, if you look at it logically, you can kind of handle this in a very straightforward manner.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's definitely great to hear you say that, because that's something I need to do. I just have a bunch of liquidity just sitting around. And I was doing, like, the bare minimum on Blast. I had some Baja Blast. I had some Pack because I read OSF's thread, and I was just like, okay, I should probably get involved. For some reason, he was my wake-up signal. And then I do have a couple of Blastopians I've held since
Wicked
then.
smart guys,
just because the Creed Alpha guys are pretty cool over there. Wicked smart. I will say, though, you know, I don't understand why I mid-curved Blast so hard. I am just kind of worried. Like, I wonder how all this will play out after the fact, if that makes sense, after all the airdrops and stuff. And I do worry and wonder about the longevity of it. I'm pretty small brain, you know. I couldn't really come up with a good answer for that.
I think the Blast airdrop,
it's just so hard, just like to guess at these market conditions.
I really do. I think it's going to do
You think it beats expectations?
No.
I think it beats
Agreed.
expectations, but I don't think it's going to be as good as Blur. That's just my opinion, but I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Like, definitely better than what people think, but definitely not as lucrative as Blur
really
was.
shocked
Blur
a lot
was
of people
insane.
immediately. Like, that was kind of the tough part, was like that's what led to Blur season 1 leading into season 2 being like heavily farmed, because the people who did participate in season 1 just made so much money. And that was the wild part, was like it really opened up so many people's eyes to just what's possible, and if you took action here, you were good to go. And now it's like, I think so many people are like, Blast will disappoint. I think it beats expectations. But I agree. I don't think it's going to like wow enough people to be like, holy shit, this is life-changing. I think it's going to be a substantial airdrop that people are like, wow, this was actually really lucrative, and I probably should have done this. Why didn't I? And that's where I'm like, this is good. Like, this is what you want. This is the price action you want, where enough people are now going to wait, join season 2, but potentially get exhausted again. But Pac-Man has this like lock on making people want to stick around. There's a reason we've continued to see Blur farmers farm up until literally this week.
Yeah, we've watched from like Blur season 1 to season 2, and then going into Blast announcement. He's an absolute expert at keeping your attention and giving you a reason to like stay engaged with whatever he's building. There's probably going to be a ton of liquidity that gets unlocked through the airdrop that sticks around on Blast, and I think he's obviously going to do everything he can to try to keep a stranglehold on a lot of it being there. I'm thinking coins on that chain
There's just so
hopefully
few
will
meme coins,
be popping
man.
off.
Like, that's
Hopefully
the
new
thing.
pairs. I
looked
love new
yesterday, I
pairs
was
on any
like,
chain.
there's literally no meme coins on this chain.
There really is.
Like, excuse me.
I've been speaking with a lot of people about that as well, because I feel like a lot of the meme coins aren't even really memes. Like, I feel like there's a big gap on Blast, and I'm constantly looking for it, of like a really good culture coin, like a really funny Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Inu type, just like cult, weird. And I think there's a big gap for that on Blast. Obviously, like Pac-Moon has a little bit of a cult following, but like you know what I'm saying, like not the same type of like Milady crowd, like funny shit posting. So I think if someone launches a meme like that,
So
I'll
there is
probably
a coin
bid pretty
launching
heavily.
today called Pew, P-E-W. I don't know if you've heard it. There's still the pre-sale's still live right now.
I'll have
that's
to
it.
look into that.
Yeah, there's a pre-sale. It's already 100% oversubscribed, so
Oh, it's
300%
pre-sale?
now. So you're only getting like 3% of what you, or 30% of what you put in. It's got.
Great.
I wish they would just cap this fucking thing. It's got 3.5 hours left. It's a
Great.
PEW.xyz. So it's launched by the Blaster Swap team. So yes, exactly.
Oh, Zeneca's shilling.
Of course. So you get more. So you know
Oh, it
how
has
this is gonna
referral
go.
links,
But I
of
think this
course.
could be the first one that actually does fairly well initially.
Love that.
Just because the right people are shilling it. Obviously, it's by Blaster Swap, which
Interesting.
we've seen some decent people involved in. It's a new platform launching, so I think we're going to end up seeing more people launching this. And if you look at the cap table for Blaster Swap, it's OSF, Dingaling, Mando, Zeneca, Banks, Cross, Pyroshi, Undefined Labs, Black Mamba, Apollo. Decent number of good like whales involved. So I think we end up seeing some decent tokens. Like Pudge launched on it yesterday.
Yeah.
And right now, if we take a look, just wait, bear with me while I open up the chart on Deck Screener. It's sitting at 123k FDV, so not terribly great, but it's up 101% over 24 hours. So not too bad. It got as high as 180k fully diluted. I think the thing is people just aren't looking for meme coins on Blast just yet, and I think they will. As we see like a Blaster Swap doing more of these token launches, and Blaster Swap
They
got
will.
173,000 gold to give out to, I'm like, yeah, this is going to start getting some people excited. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I do want to
Man.
see a totally fair, just like culture coin launch, like just from the ground. This looks really good, though. This
I
looks
hate that.
interesting. I don't like how it's
Yeah,
329% oversubscribed. Like, I don't know, just cap
So
it.
even though it's
Kind
oversubbed,
of greedy, but
if you read what they're doing for it, if
it
it goes
does
over
look good.
100%, you're only able to claim whatever percentage of it. So that's if it's 100. We're at 300. So you're only going to be able to claim 30%, and the rest of your ETH is
50%.
refunded.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so you can still go in. I think this pod will be live
Yeah, I
today,
think
so by
later
the time
today
this
it'll
goes
be
live, there might
released.
still be
NFA,
time. There's like
NFA,
3.5 hours left.
But that's what I'm looking at. Is like we've been
NFA,
waiting for a
NFA.
decent meme
NFA,
coin
of course.
launch.
Do
They
your-
have their own website. Blaster Swap team launching it. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna. In my opinion, this one will be
For
probably one
sure.
of the more lucrative ones. The fair launch is interesting. I wish that they would just be like, the tough part is it's like if you say it's only 200 ETH, you're gonna have people bot and multi-wallet it. Whereas doing it this way basically just dilutes and anyone could get in.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Blast is because it's low gas fees, people like Keltiv and Terminator can spam the chain. So I think they really got to be careful with that because it could go horribly in that regard. Something to watch out for.
Yep, same on base.
Yep.
Gosh.
Can we get Mia relaunch 2, part 2, please? I cooked off that. Yeah. Can we please redo that?
You didn't cook as much as me, buddy.
Yeah, it was still a good stimmy. I don't want to hear it. I will say though, so we were talking about products you've already been doing. Is there anything you're looking at doing or that you've been thinking about doing on Blast?
District 1, but I just don't have the time to sit in the chat rooms and take part in all that, to be honest, which is tough because you can make an argument for it. But there are some I think Play Cambria is still really slept on from a gaming perspective. They still have about 500,000 gold to give out, and it's really easy to play that game even for 30 minutes. Blaster Swap, like I said, still has another 500k gold or 150,000 gold to give out. That one's going to be kind of a no-brainer. But when I start to look at some other things, it's the lending, NFT, DeFi style of things I'm more interested in. There's some other stuff too where I'm what exactly is going to kind of cause some positive price action? I found this one called meme.fun that's on there, and it has another 150k gold to give out. And it seems interesting to me to participate on something like that, where another PWA app, all these apps on Blast, that's probably the hardest part for me is all these apps on Blast require a phone number or email instead of just Connect Wallet, which I wish they did. But where can I just take a couple small actions and get rewarded decently? And it's mostly DeFi apps, meme coin apps, buying NFTs. Most of the NFTs have already given out their gold. That's kind of where my head's at, though. I'm okay, let me just take a look and see what's launching soon on here and what can I get involved in that doesn't feel too crowded. And it's most of these ones that are sub 5k followers social apps. Early Fans was another social media app that had got a ton of gold. Instead of taking the gold route, though, I just bought their token and watched their token rally as soon as they announced their gold allocation and potential view here for what they're going to be doing on how they distribute that and if they could hit a lottery. That would be crazy.
All right, so Easy, I want to pivot the conversation a little bit and ask you a little bit more about some of your trading styles. I think I heard you talk about this on a pod maybe last week, and also listening to you speak earlier about your journey back in 16, 17, you were up crazy and then lost a lot when it crashed, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious if you could share with us around, you make money somewhere. You want to obviously have this goal of building up liquidity and also protect yourself from the downside. What's your strategy to
most of the time sold,
when you make money? Where are you putting it? I'm going to guess it's probably on Solana. How are you allocating yourself like that? How are you protecting yourself from downside? And even if it is Solana, what are you doing with that? So are you staking it somewhere for yield, et cetera,
as far as rewards and airdrops, just from being early on there? It's a liquid staking protocol. They have their own token that you get rewarded in as well. And that's been my easiest way to just stake, get rewards, and participate. When it comes to allocation-wise, I hold basically no liquid ETH, mostly Sol, AVAX, HBAR, which I'm wildly bullish on still, and then a single Bitcoin is I want. Dude, shout out Ghostly Ghost, dude.
Shout out Ghostly Ghost, bro.
I know, yeah. I did that just because I knew he'd kill me if I didn't at least have some exposure.
Yeah,
but I'm mostly
proud.
Sol, just because even right now at 160, my targets are closer to $700 per Solana. So I'm I got in really early. I made some. That's where my head's at, dude. And I got in I have my public.
Love that.
Probably realistically, and I'm gonna scale out slowly before all the way up, just because my buys started. My lowest buy was $9.10, and then I put it heavy. Yeah, heavy.
Yeah, you were buying post FTX
yeah.
Huge
My
balls.
thesis didn't change.
Massive,
I was my only concern here is
gonads.
the FTX overhang, which is how much SOL they have locked up that's unlocking. And they sold most of it OTC at $70 to $80 per. So when that information started to leak around December and SOL was still selling, I was oh, this is still locked up for 3 to 4 years. The tech hasn't changed. Anatoly and Raj are doubling down on building stuff out. All it's going to take is for the narrative to just slightly shift. And dude, it was
probably a lifetime trade, I would say. for sure.
No, I literally nuked my port, and then I rebought Sol at the lows because I was like, oh, whatever. My portfolio is going to zero anyways. What does it even matter anymore? And then also I was I was so scared about FTX, I actually picked up 2 jobs during that time.
I think that's smart.
And it was at like around my time. It was 7 a.m. when your morning show would come on. So I'd listen to it while I was loading up packages onto a UPS truck. And I remember there was a couple other projects around there at the same time, but you kept talking about the heist. And I went in on the heist, and I made a lot of money doing that. Like, I literally turned my, like, very small amount, 8 Sol, like, into a couple hundred.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, is, like, I would say that a lot of people do need jobs, I think. Like, we talked about this already with the CK thing. I think 2 episodes ago in our first episode, as far as, like, covering your risk, but, like, I think that was a smart decision post FTX, because, like, really we had no idea where it was going to go. And a lot of people thought it was over. And I think that's good, like, that you sought out 2 jobs, especially, like, yeah, I think that's great.
I mean, look, like, you gotta just, I don't know.
Wi-Fi
I'm always big on.
You're good.
You're all good. You're all good. It's like, you can't just, I don't know, some people can do it. I guess it may be in the scenario that they are in, you know, like, oh, they literally do 0 or something, like, they're fine. I'm always very extreme when it comes to it. Like, so, like, after FTX, I acted like my crypto was 0. I was like, okay, I need 2 jobs. Was I still spending all of my time on Twitter and Discord and Telegram? Yes. But, like, I needed to have some sort of safety cushion. And even when I think that literally happened, and then I literally was making money, like, the next week. Like, I never actually really needed to get the job, and I even kept working those jobs for 4 months, because I was still just like, I just need to make sure. Easy, before you cut out, I was talking about how your continuous shout-out of the heist during the, like, peak bear bottom kind of saved my port at a portion. That cooked for me hard.
It was just like Wolf Game, dude, and I was like, I had missed Wolf Game, but I was like, and I had always thought Wolf Game will work better on Sol. Like, that was always the thesis, was this game is too expensive to play on ETH mainnet. A game that launches like this on Solana, if you're in early, you're going to make a ton of money. And it did. It planned out exactly. But like any of those games, sustainability is the most difficult part. So, like, I had probably papered them pretty early. I got in, like, all sub 10, sold most of them over 15 to 20 for the NFTs. I think at one point I had, like, 100 of them. And I was just playing the game like crazy, printing the token and immediately dumping the token. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything else outside of that. Because I remember how Wool went. And I was like, all right, let's just keep capitalizing as much Sol as possible, to the point where, like, the token had me way in the green, plus the NFTs. And it's just all just trying to get in front of the narratives. Like, idle games had that huge meta. And then I was like, okay, I'm only going to buy the next 2 that launch and then fade everyone after that, because you're going to have FOMO rallies on these. Sadly, the FOMO rallies lasted much shorter. Like, Reavers launched, got absolutely slaughtered on that. And there was, like, 1 or 2 others, like Kings on Sol and something else, where I ended up passing because Reavers was, like, the most hyped one, and that one kind of fizzled out much quicker. But I was like, okay, liquidity, there's no new participants. That's the issue. And that's kind of where we got to on it. But yeah, I'm glad you cooked on Heist. That was a good one. I still think gaming's a pretty big narrative right now that I think a lot of people are still sleeping on in some capacity, which is why I hold like 22 backwoods right now that I'm still bullish on, especially with the token that's launching there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I still look at ecosystem-wise. And Wolf Game on Blast, I actually want to get in on decently early, because I think that's going to give a slight resurgence to the game, where the first few thousand players are going to end up doing really well.
Yeah, totally. To tie into that gaming, especially with like content creation coming up, I know like I think Banks is actually pivoting to a lot of crypto gaming as well, with his new phase rework. How do you approach making engaging content, especially when I feel like everyone is trying to make content nowadays? How do you stay on top of your game and make like exciting, engaging content that people want to watch, I would say?
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Easy's making content outside of the podcast. Like, he has his own YouTube channel, which like will also plug. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I just like it. Like, it's like, if I see something interesting, I've realized too, like, these short, poorly edited videos get much better engagement and traction because they're relatable. So, like, these overlaid videos for this Blast Challenge wallet, I'm like, are just fun. They don't take a lot of effort. I can knock them out in like 15, 20 minutes when something new happens. And if I make a trade or make an aggressive move on it, just be yourself and be like relatable. Just show your losses. People don't want to see you only winning because they can't relate to it. I've found too, people enjoy seeing losses more than they like seeing wins. And you can see it if you follow Clemente. He went on like the worst cold streak I've seen from like February to end of April. And his engagement soared because he just kept getting torched. It was like called the habitual top signal. And people like that content as bad as it sounds. But dude, just be yourself. Like, that's kind of the main thing I could say. And like, if you're interested in making content, just hit record. The biggest thing I would say is like consistency outweighs anything else. Just be consistent, continue to post. Eventually it'll stick. People start to resonate with you. They start to find the things that you find interesting are interesting. And obviously, like, alpha is always what people are interested in. And as like an active market participant, that's where I can give an edge. Like, how can I show people what I'm doing? And even today on the show, like, we were talking Pump Fun, and I put Nick and Clemente onto Photon, which they had not used. And I was just walking through like what I look for on Pump Fun for meme coins and what I do on Photon and how I trade it. And that's like what people want to know is like, oh, you're doing well. How can I do well? What can I learn? What small thing can I take from this that could potentially help me get better? And that's where I focus a lot of the time, energy, and effort is, okay, let's just get you learning about this. Like, I had posted a Pump Fun video, I want to say like a month ago at this point. It's still putting like 200-300 views on YouTube. And that to me was like, okay, there's something here. Right now the meme coin cycle is the big thing people are interested in. So let's just show them what the content they want. And that's the thing is, like, if you find something interesting and people do resonate with it, there's nothing wrong with doubling down on that type of content and showing people more interest in it and doing more content around that topic, because that's where you're going to find the majority of your success. So, like, knowing meme coins are hot, what else can I show people? Like, can I show them how to use Photon next? Can I show them what I'm doing with a $500 balance? How would I navigate the space?
You guys had actually covered on that show a tool that me and LTR have been talking about for like maybe only like 3 days. I guess it's good to share the alpha on that. It's basically like a pump.fun filtering tool. The website is Poomp. It's POOMP.fun. It basically lets you filter if it has socials or how long it's been created, what market cap it's at. That's a great tool if you guys are unaware, because sometimes pump.fun is just tough to sift through. If you want to look at new stuff that's launched, easy way to see it.
Just a little easier on the eyes.
Yeah, a lot.
Just a little easier.
Yeah, I think the whole point of kind of like why we wanted to make this podcast was just, you know, we wanted just to make something that people that kind of do the same work as us wanted to listen to, you know? Like, we've listened to a couple other podcasts and stuff, and, you know, kind of in there's little circles kind of everywhere, and on our little circle, there wasn't really anyone making too much content. You know, it was just us sitting in Telegram chats, just like talking about the most random things all day. And I really just wanted to make something that we could all just engage upon, and also hopefully, you know, learn from each other and learn from other people, and just, you know, it doesn't hurt to just become a better trader just from learning from other people.
100%, and that's the thing.
I think one of the hardest things about crypto, though, and I think why content like yours easy, especially with the face cam and with like just being real and not, you know, super manufactured, is that a lot of times you can't talk in real life with your friends about this stuff. Or I think a lot of people can get a little lonely because it's like, yeah, people don't understand what you do, or, you know, you can't really explain to them how you were buying a ton of cat coins on Pump.fun on a chain called Solana. Like, they won't understand you, and they can't relate. So I think having relatable content versus having super manufactured perfect content is always going to win out, especially in this space, which is so cornered off from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. That's a big thing too, and it's like the relatability of it's tough, and it's like, how do you tell a friend to go watch something to at least get some information? And it's like, that's the type of content I want to start to put out there, where like, you never had looked at this stuff before, but you can watch something and be like, oh, okay, this is now making sense. Like, this is cool. Okay, this is what someone's doing. This is where someone's taking action. And that's kind of where my head's at. I'm like, all right, let's just get people educational content that's enjoyable, fun, and gets them active. You know, like, how do we get this person to want to click the buttons?
I totally agree. So looking forward, is there anything specific? I know you mentioned you're still bullish on Blast, you're still bullish on Solana to 690, bullish on HBAR, bullish on gaming. You mentioned Cambria. Are there any more specific games, or is there any more specific things you're excited to look forward to?
Yeah, like Cambria is interesting. Obviously, I think Cap and Company is really interesting. They've been crushing it over there. I like to kind of take a look at some of these other things here, where the game side is like, is the game enjoyable? Is there a positive feedback loop? And honestly, I think meme coin games are going to be the next big meta. Like playing this world PvP thing made me realize that there's an entire ecosystem of people that just want the hyper liquidity of meme coins, but the socialify aspect to be integrated. And that's why I really like this world PvP thing, because I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense. Like this, oddly enough, gets people excited, makes them form communities, makes them have some game theory and logic involved. And that's where I'm like, once again though, I was like, I wish it was on Sol, just because it's instant transactions and base ETH and all these other L2s cannibalizing ETH. I'm like, this is the tough part. You're spreading liquidity across multiple L2s. Just launch it on Sol and have basically the same, if not a better user experience in instant transactions, you know? But I think the meme coin super cycle is real, and I think that on top of that, we're going to get meme coin games where it forms communities and ecosystems, much like NFT's cycle was in 21-22, where you only have 10,000. Now you can put skin in the game for $1 and feel like you're a part of it. And that's like much easier to onboard someone where they're like, dude, why are you on your phone all the time? Why are you talking about Cuba for me? And it's like, dude, get $1 of Cuba and now you're part of our community. You know, here's how you do it.
Yeah, Easy's the president of Cuba, by the way, if you guys didn't know that.
Yeah, I own 51% of Cuba.
Yeah, he is Fidel Castro.
Easy Castro.
One thing I will say is, like, I haven't really ever talked about this in the podcast, but I'm waiting, which there might already be products out there. I'm honestly so in this small little bubble on just Solana meme coin trade right now. I'm waiting for something fun to come out that kind of like attracts the masses, right? What I considered fun was, I considered NFTs more fun than the meme coin trading I do now. And then also just the NFT games that we used to play, like just the small little staking or like Wolf game, or there's going to be so many other games I just can't think of right now off the top of my head. But I'm waiting for, that fun aspect to come back, because I really, really do miss that. I miss, like the heist. I miss like logging in and doing something on a game every day. Like that was fun for me. Right now, I understand like you're joining a community, yada, 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 but I don't know. Something about logging in, doing a couple tasks, or playing a game was just so much more fun than just like sitting in a Telegram chat all day because you own a coin.
I completely agree. And that's what made this world PvP thing fun, is like now there's Telegram chats, there's Twitter chats, there's like a UN of people who are all talking about like what the country's going to get nuked first and like how we're strategically thinking about it behind closed doors. And it's like, it's the most fun I've had for a meme coin ever, because it's just hilarious. Like there's memes that come out of it, there's monetary incentives, and then there's social incentives. So I'm like, how does this keep scaling? What's the next game going to be? And it's why I wanted to get early, because I just kind of like, it clicked for me where I was like, oh, this whole game is less than 5 million in liquidity. The top token's a 2 million market cap. The third token is a 250K market cap. Like they're literally micro caps in comparison to some of these other major coins. And if the game continues to gain traction, we're going to see some really fun things happen from it. I think we start to see spin-offs of other meme coin games that I think gain a lot of traction and interest.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I probably need to look into that world stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I really just want the fun back.
I think it's a genius idea, honestly, too, because, like, the market cap of country you can compare to, like, the GDP of the country. So it's like, oh, what's your price target for the USA? Well, the GDP of the USA. And it's just like, I think that's part of the genius of it, is you create these cults without even needing to build the cult, just because people already have a lot of nationalism for their country or for random countries. So I think looking for stuff like that is definitely good.
I think so too, and there's just a lot of correlations that are hilarious to it, where I'm like, this has staying power, but it just comes down to like, what is that level of staying power, I guess, and like, how is it done? There's things I think can improve on, there's things I think that they did well. It's just fun, but it's new, and I think that's a big thing. New stuff is where you should always be looking, like any cycle. I think the new stuff always outpaces the old stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm probably going to wrap this up
I only got 5
on
minutes
that
left.
point. Perfect. Awesome. That works great. Nailed it. Thank you, Easy, for coming on today. We really, really, really appreciate it. Thank y'all for listening. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace.